I'm so pleased that you're joining us for Mindset Michelle TV today. It's going to be such a fabulous and amazing show. I cannot believe, and I feel so incredibly honoured and privileged with all of the different guests that I've had this week. But today, I feel even more honoured and special having the magical and amazing Louise Mahler with me. Louise is somebody that I've followed and admired for many years now, and she's an incredible, incredible woman and a powerful leader in the women's space, helping many people to find their voice. She's got an incredible background in opera singing in Vienna and all sorts of other amazing, incredible skills that she's learned, honed and developed over many years to become the person that everybody, the go-to person that everybody goes to find your voice. So welcome, Louise, and please tell everybody a little bit more about yourself today.
Hi, Michelle. Honoured to be here and to meet everybody. Yes, well, I help people find their voice, and I do that through two parts to my background. One was the opera singing you mentioned, and the other is my study and my PhD in leadership communication, and put those together for applied confidence.
Wonderful. And what were some of the key highlights or key experiences from when you were learning and travelling and studying those two quite different areas there, Louise?
Well, you know, what people might not realise is that I've had performance anxiety from the youngest age that anyone can have performance anxiety, and that's 5 years old. And I remember the critical experience, bang, you know, straight there. I was playing a gollywog and I had to cartwheel onto stage and then stand there. And as I went onto the stage, my mother said to me, "Now you're going to be good for mummy, aren't you?" And what? And then I cartwheeled onto stage, went like this, and the whole audience laughed. You know, I had this fabulous costume. I was 5 years old. Why are they laughing at me? And I've analysed that till the cows come home. And the thing is, my mother said, "You're going to be good for mummy." Now think about that. That's not good for the audience. That's not good for yourself. That's not good for the show. It's good for mummy. Now, that was actually an unachievable goal, quite frankly, and quite confusing. And I think that, you know, that confusion in life has been an ongoing, that has been critical in various milestones along the way. So, you know, milestones were, of course, that I finished school, and then I did a mathematics degree. And I did a mathematics and economics degree, and I was on my way to the Bureau of Statistics. And I sort of visualised the Bureau of Statistics as some sort of dungeon where you would be tortured. And I was in my final year doing econometrics. I looked around my class. There were 6 people in the class. And I thought, I am the most attractive, beautiful, interesting, talented person here. And let me tell you, the competition was not stiff. And then my singing teacher said, "You should do singing." So whipped over to singing, and loved it for years, and had fabulous experiences working with, you know, I mentioned names like Peter Eustanos, Elizabeth Schwarzkopf, Morella Franey, Jesse Norman. People don't know these names anymore, maybe, you know, just got too old, but they're very famous names. But always within that life was this, you know, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Performance anxiety. And when I went to Vienna, I actually got bronchitis that I had for 10 years, if I'm honest, and constantly coughing, worrying about myself. And I remember there was a performance with Jessie Norman in Ariadne, and she was doing, Ariadne does an echo where she stands on stage. She was a magnificent singer, and she had to go, "Ah," and then my role was echo at the side of the stage, and I had to echo her and go, "Ah." And honestly, the tension in that situation for the best singer of the world, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. My throat was swollen, but it was psychologically I lost my voice more than physically, and that's become a real passion in my life. And of course, then I came out of singing, went into business, and interestingly enough, once I was working with a client in Canberra, and she said, "We don't have a coffee shop downstairs, but we'll go down and go to the building next door." And we went to the building next door, and it was just magnificent. It was all marble and mezzanine and plants hanging from the floor. It was like the, gardens of Babylon. And Julia Gillard was in the coffee shop. All the sexy people were there and everything. And I said to her, what's this building? And she said, oh, it's the Bureau of Statistics. True story. And I just started screaming hysterically. But I thought, okay, all roads lead to Rome in the end. And all roads do lead to end. There's quite disparate backgrounds have all led to understanding performance, under emotional stress to ourselves and emotion of the situation. And that's my passion. Body, voice, and how we handle really stressful, high-stake engagements.
That's fabulous. And thank you so much for explaining a lot of the different motivations that you've had throughout life to, really strive. And you're such an accomplished person in so many different areas. And I really hear how also some of it does still kind of loop around back to when you were 5 and going on stage, and it was around being good for mum. And some of that, the core things that happen when we're children, and then they have their good sides, but they also have bad sides. And the good sides are that they tend to then end up being things that create the opportunities and create that drive for us to be successful.
Look, I've met a lot of very famous people in my life, and all of them are driven by trying to please a parent or, because what drives you to go through that pain?
Exactly. And all of the years of study and all of the commitment that it takes to do the types of things that you've studied and become a master at, those things need that kind of momentum and that kind of, I'm doing this to, understand more of myself around this area or develop this area, which means that it'd be really interesting. So what do you think success now means to you? What is it around all of that wonderful smorgasbord of experiences and background? What is, for Louise today, what does success mean?
Success for me today means helping people, being useful and helping people. I, over coronavirus, when everything shut down, I hate that. Ring me, ring me. I don't care if I don't get paid. I want to help. I just adore that when people are having success and I can see their success and that's great, that I'm useful, that the things that I've done actually have an effect and are useful for others. That's what I strive for.
That's such a wonderful.
Everything has to be fun, have an element.
It has to be fun and it has to support others, and that's just really some wonderful, wonderful motivation there. And I know that many of the people watching, and because this is about mindset, they are going to be wondering, well, what out of all of that amazing experience and knowledge that you have would be 3 key tips that you might give to people so that they can also learn to have that same level of confidence with their voice, with their body language, so that they can learn from your experience around that?
Yeah, well, here's an odd one, is blank it out. If there's a bad experience, let it go. I think that I'm very good at bad things that have happened in my life. Can't remember. And I think that one of the most obvious examples was that in April the 13th, not that I'm counting, April the 13th, 2019, I actually was attacked by 2 tiger snakes, and I ended up apparently on the ground and they attacked me and I had snake bites all over my back. I actually don't know what happened. I had a complete mental blackout and I cannot remember. I know I was there were snakes. I got up and I was covered in snake bites. What happened in between, I don't remember. And there are periods in my life that I go, oh, really? Did that happen? I blank it out. And, I've spoken to psychologists who say, oh, you can get these memories back. Yeah. You can get it back. But do you want to? Because once you get it back, you can't lose it again. So, if it's bad, let it go. Let it go. Work on it. Do hypnosis. Do whatever it takes to get rid of bad experiences. I use a lot of mantras. I have a mantra for just about every situation. I'll do lots of mantras. I just repeat phrases. Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do. Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do. When I get really tricky questions, or when I'm listening and I'm not sure when things are going, I go, nod, blink, smile like an idiot, nod, blink, smile like an idiot, nod, blink. And these things kind of blank out all of the conversation that I have in my head. So always getting rid of negative conversation of the bad directions. And the third one would be find help. You know, if you can't do this yourself, get help. I love it. The people I coach who are really successful, and they're the ones who come in and go, give me the sessions, follow it through, as opposed to those who go, come in and leave. And you think, yeah, well, no wonder you're not successful, darling. You know, really, you've got to follow it through. You've got to really dive into it.
I so completely agree with all of the fabulous points there about blanking it out, the mantras and finding help. And in particular, I think, you know, that the blanking it out one is something that from my background, I actually did automatically as a child growing up with some of the experiences that happened. And as I entered my adult years, it was interesting because as I was going on that personal healing journey, I actually was quite surprised sometimes about things I'd forgotten, quite dramatic things I'd forgotten. But you're exactly right. There comes a point where when stuff now comes up, it's like, well, I'm moving on. And a lot of what I do with people is around resetting. I explain it to people as being like train tracks. And some of those experiences can create a train track in your mind. And really what you're doing is as you start down that train track, you actually want to pattern interrupt with those mantras and finding help are perfect ways of doing that. So that you, as you go down that train track, you actually pattern interrupt, change it and shift. And one of the easy examples I talk about with people is when I learned how to stop smoking. So I'd tried stopping a number of times, and it's funny even to talk about people smoking now or trying to stop because times have moved on, but imagine it's, you know, stopping chocolate or stopping alcohol today. And what I found was exactly that, finding help, doing meditation, all of those different tricks to trick my mind, which also in a funny way have been things that have helped me to build the skill sets that I have now because I've done it for myself. And I hear that with what you're sharing as well. You've done these for yourself, and that's what makes you such a powerful coach and mentor and working with your clients.
I hear it when people get on that train track. And it's like a woman I worked with yesterday and has a complete freeze. And I said to her, what happens to you? And people talk about it, fascinates me. People talk about it as though they've been taken over by aliens. There is no, like, this happens to me. And I'm like, yeah, how about it doesn't happen to you? How about it doesn't? You know, what happened if it didn't? And they're like, no, it does. It doesn't have to, darling. You know, like, and I actually have this unconscious mind. Here's my problem with the unconscious mind. This is literally my unconscious mind. And I talk to it and I go, look, that's really helpful. Thanks. I get where you're coming from. It's all about saving my life. Get lost. Not now.
Yeah.
Not now. Not useful.
And I think that that's a lovely segue, if you like, into one of the other many questions, because people knowing you were appearing on the show today, they had all sorts of incredible questions for me. And I think as women and for International Women's Day, one of the key things around finding your voice is actually finding that inner power to be heard and to be seen. But the starting point is finding that within yourself. So finding that part of you that might start to act like a victim or something like that, and then shifting that. And I think
I realise it doesn't get any easier. Like, you know, I did TV this week and boom, up she comes. Do you look good enough? Are you good enough? Do you really know what you do? Oh, not now, you know, and I've just got to have those techniques to get through it. But it still comes back. It still comes back.
It does. And I think that it's that lifelong lesson. So whether you're 5 with the experience of your mum or you know, 105, those lessons and that kind of life journey of learning to overcome and to grow through those experiences, I think is so critical for the types of work that you and I do. And I'm also interested because when you're talking about that victim mindset that people can go into, that is what struck me the most about the interview this week with Meaghan and Harry. And I know that talking about celebrities and commenting on body language and voice is now such an important area for your work, and you've become such a media sensation through it. But I was struck again by the comments about, you know, I was a victim and nobody wanted to help me. And this is somebody that was a famous Hollywood movie star, and now we're meant to believe that she's a different type of personality. What was your reading on things like that?
My reading was highly manipulated, calculated stories, concocted stories, and I have analysed them. I got to watch it live at Channel 10, and each story I can go through. So the Kate, I won't, but the Kate story about Kate making her cry, they're all white lie stories. The white lies where it's been manipulated for her. So, for instance, I loved it when she's saying, Kate made me cry. That makes you cry. You cry. That is not an assertive statement. But on the other hand, she said, Kate made me cry, and she owned that. And she's, what? This was so non-assertive. The thing is, she said, Kate was clearly emotional. I think that means she was crying. And then she said, but I cried. Now, when? Where? We left out a time in there. So did she cry in her room 2 days later? We can say I cried. And then Kate sent me flowers. Well, everybody sent her flowers. It was a wedding. So these stories were manipulated. So it sounds like Kate made her cry, had to send her flowers. I do not think for 1 second that is what happened. I do not think, but we're made to believe. The other thing that she said was she never said, in the crisis story, I wanted to commit suicide. She never said that. She said, and you could see she knew exactly what she was doing. She said, I didn't want to live anymore. That's a different statement. That's a passive statement, not an active statement. And I've spoken, this my gut feeling, I spoke to a psychiatrist who said to me, absolutely, Louise, if we're diagnosing people, you know, that is a passive statement. We'll say, we'll see you next week. We're not going to put you in hospital. You know, they're very different statements about intention. But she knows that. So then she went on to say, I had methodological thoughts and this was scary. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Anyway, look, I just, you know, I listened to things like air commitment. So when they asked her, was that true? She went, Now, if you're really expressing truth, you will give air behind that statement. So you'll go, yes, it is. Yes, air will come out. Hi, hi. Doesn't matter what the word are, but you don't go,
So I guess that this is a great example again where as women and as women start to get a bit more notability and celebrity, if people, you know, if we were the firm and people like a Meaghan Markle were to say quite disparaging remarks about us, and we, you know, by arguing against, you know, I'm not racist, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not whatever, you're then giving airtime to white lies or stories. What is a great technique then for people, if you're being challenged in that way, to be seen and be heard, but you're not actually reacting against what people have said about you, you're actually still standing in your own power?
You know, create your own story. I just think totally different for the royal family because they're not supposed to respond. You know, and that's what's so wrong here is that you can't say something when someone else can't respond. That's you know, you have to say to Harry, what are you thinking? But, you know, in normal life, what I find in corporate life is that we let people get away with things all the time. We let it happen. And we need to go, stop. Now let's just understand this properly. You said, I said, that meant this. This is the way I feel about it because of this reason. Maybe this. You know, we have to actually challenge things by giving feedback. Feedback, I think is an essential skill for women. And my experience working with women in leadership programs is that so few people can do that effectively or want to.
And a lot of that comes back to, you know, if a colleague, and you don't know who it is, says, oh, they're not a team player or they're too strong or too bitchy, too this or too that, all of those fill in the blanks that you might know are being said about you, but for women in those corporate situations, how to actually then go, well, my story is this is who I am.
Yes,
I'm proud of.
and repeat those statements. You find that. Look, my mother was a great example. She actually came across as really soft and fluffy. Behind the scenes, you would not go to the desert with my mother. She would eat you. You would come out worst. But she always stated in public, well, I'm so soft, I'd never say that. Or, I'm just so kind, it's not something that would have occurred to me. And always her brand was out there. She was always speaking her brand because she's so soft and kind, your mother. And I'm like, yeah, close the door. But, so what is your brand? Speak it. Be heard. Be seen, get out there, be first. Confidence is about speaking often and speaking your piece. And we've got to get that voice out.
I share that with clients a lot about something I learned many years ago called broken record, which is exactly what you're saying. If you say something 10 times and other people are saying something different, what becomes the narrative is what you're saying 10 times. So you have to have that confidence to keep saying it. Otherwise, if there's a blank, and this is in the personal branding work I do as well, if there's a blank space about what you say or who you say you are as a personal brand, people fill that in.
Yep, they do.
So, yeah.
They do.
And what would you say has been some of the most interesting or the most challenging, especially with the many women that you work with, and it's International Women's Day, so what would be some of the more challenging traits that women tend to do over and over that you've really helped them to shift and to move?
Freezing. People don't understand that the whole game is about getting air out of your body. The word inspire comes from the verb spirare, to breathe, and we inspire. You don't inspire yourself, you inspire others, which means you get air out of your body and mouth to mouth resuscitate them. You get air out to them, you inspire them. And so getting air out of the body, people don't realize that we freeze. And we freeze in the body with the diaphragm, we freeze at the neck, we freeze with the mouth. So many people that I work with only move their lips and their teeth do not move. We freeze the head, it doesn't move. We freeze the eyes. Move all of those things, and that's my book Resonate. It's how to get air out of your body, because voice is just air coming out of your body. It gets broken up by the vocal folds that open and close. So when it comes out of your body, it vibrates. If it vibrates fast, perceived as high notes. If it vibrates slow, perceived as low notes. Simple as that. But it's just the vocal folds vibrating, chopping the air up. So realize it's just a game of getting the air out. Stop freezing and do something about freezing. And that's a huge challenge to get into people's mindset, that they have no control. You have every control.
And I guess for women, because if I get nervous, I start talking a lot higher and a lot faster.
Yeah.
Which a lot of women do, because...
Well, one, you start talking higher because it's your visual preference. Two, you start talking more quickly because you've stopped breathing. So you've just got little top breaths and then there are no breaks. So it might not even be that your pace is faster, but it's the fact that you have no break between your pace. You're just going on like that. And I do too, exactly the same.
Yeah, so I've noticed, and especially when I started doing videos, I needed to actually really slow down and focus more on my tone of voice and go deeper if I could.
I slow down. See, the unconscious mind, you go, I need to slow down. And the unconscious mind, no, don't slow down. And it usually lasts about 4 seconds, your instruction to slow down. So instead, breathe. Just get your diaphragm moving, get the air lower in the body, and that will slow it down. Fast speaking gives credibility, builds excitement, builds dynamic. You don't want to give up the fast speaking. You just want to make it listenable by having, I hate the word pause, but, having pause, having breath.
Yeah, I know when I was doing some stand-up comedy as well that the thing that fascinated me the most that I learned about was actually the pauses and how powerful. And you must have seen that as well when working with some senior leaders, because they're giving a lot of inspirational information, but it's also the pauses for people to absorb that information that are important.
Well, I hate the word pause because it doesn't have an element of breath in it. And when you stop speaking, it's there's air involved. So I don't know what an alternative word to pause is, but it's pause with air. And people don't get it, because what this airflow is a piece of music. And we don't realize that it's a piece of music. We're creating music. It's got to have dynamic, it's got to do something. It is not a list. I work with a lot of doctors, and they are very worried about getting things wrong. And I say wrong, W-R-O-N-G. They really are quite worried about getting things wrong, and they become very obsessed with the words, and it's really hard to change the mindset to it's not about the words.
Yeah. Well, so much fascinating stuff we can talk about. I'm just having a quick look to see what engagement we're getting on the different social media. But as I do that, Louise, do you want to just share quickly then, if you were to give yourself some advice, if you were thinking back to that 5-year-old or the 25-year-old, what piece or key piece of advice would you want to give your younger self?
Understand what's going on with yourself. The faster you can do that, the better. Understand what's going on with the psychology of the situation around you. Just get understanding of what's going on, and then build some skills and practice your way out of it.
Fabulous. Yeah, understanding and building the skills. I think that's the two key things that definitely anybody can do, and anybody can learn. Going back to your 3 tips of, especially around finding help. People finding help for whatever element it is that they're wanting to grow into, and finding other people that are experts at it, like yourself.
When it comes to understanding, if you had all the answers, you would have done it. So if you're going to understand, you have to get help, because you can't guide yourself. Stop taking your own advice. It's usually this.
And we've only got a few minutes left, but one of the questions that has come through is around Harry, interestingly, and not Meaghan, but it's about a question to do with, do you think he's being heard or not? Is Harry somebody that, is perhaps not finding his voice at the moment?
Yeah, who? Harry? No, but yeah, no. This is what I think's happened to Harry. He's had a life going like this, and he became, because of his war experience, we all know going to war, active war is not a great thing, his brain became a little scrambled and vulnerable, and it's been taken and turned in a different direction. And honestly, where's Harry? Who's Harry? I can't find Harry. I don't know where he is. He says some worrying things. He said, I've tried to educate others as I've been educated. That's the sort of statement the orange people say with their what? Wake up. Hey.
Yeah, I definitely believe he's drunk some sort of Kool-Aid to follow the path that he's following at the moment. And we could talk, I know, for many more hours, Louise, but we're coming close to the end of the show. So how can people connect with you? How do they get to know more about Louise?
Oh, terribly easy to find. Louise Mahler is a very uncommon name. There's only a couple in the world, none in Australia. So www.louisemahler.com.au. The other one's in America, so she got the .com, mine's AU, louisemahler.com.au, and my programs are at themahlermethod.com, but you can link to those through the website Louise Mahler. And we are having so much fun with our group sessions, individual coaching and group sessions in my membership stepping up. I'm loving seeing the results, and people are loving being part of it. So I look forward to anyone who'd love to join. Let me know.
Fabulous. And I know that you can also get your book from your website as well, the Resonate book.
Resonate. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Well, it's been such an honour having you here today, Louise. You've been an amazing and insightful guest, and I really want to, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Michele. Delight to be here.
Wonderful. And tomorrow we continue this incredible celebration of International Women's Day. So I'm looking forward to seeing and speaking with Angela Vitakoulis. So that as well is going to be an incredible story. Angela is, I've referred to her as Action Angela because she is definitely an action lady. And like Louise and Nina and Monica, these are all incredible women, and I encourage you to follow them and to look at the skills that they bring, and if they resonate with you, to connect with them on their websites or on LinkedIn so that you can keep growing and developing as the amazing people that you are too. So until next time, be great, be fabulous, and be you.